Welcome. We are here today with MC4326. This is our advanced social media and analytics class. I am so excited to be here today, kicking off our first social media shows of the semester with probably one of the best groups ever. Honestly, I'm very excited about this. This is my wonderful graduate assistant, Matilda. Do you want to say hi to everyone, Matilda?
Hello, it's really nice being here. I'm super excited for this social media show.
I'm
We have
excited
such
to
a
have
good, yes, it's such a good topic, and I'm just so excited about it.
It is such a good topic. This show really kicks us off for the beginning of a series of conceptual concepts that we're going to be addressing in our class. And I think it's really interesting because I think you're going to get a huge amount of range today in our conversation around platforms and publics. And that will span from network publics to refractive publics all the way over to anti-publics. And these are really linking conversations that we've been having in our course. Pretty much ongoing, but certainly will be preceding this conversation as well. And if we think about how we all engage on social media, how many of you are scrolling all the time? Yeah, me too. It is something we do. And whether we are scrolling Italian brain rot or if we are dealing with hashtag activism, what Nathan Ramburka describes as hashtag publics, we're all kind of engaging in these spaces of what would be described as liminal spaces. And this situation of liminality, this between and betwixt state where we are human beings, publics, who are engaging in these platforms that operate as a structure for us, are really going to guide the framework for a lot of these chats that are moving forward. I want to introduce you to the team that will be discussing platforms and publics with us today. We have Nick. Hello, Nick. We have Armani. We have Emma. We have Jaden. And they are just such a fabulous group. I had the privilege last night of seeing their dry run. So I already know it's going to be an outstanding show. There's no doubt in my mind it's an outstanding show. I love when I kind of pre-know that it's going to be fabulous. It's going to be fabulous. You're in for a real treat today with these wonderful people. I am going to pass the floor over to this team, starting with Nick, who will be kicking off the introduction for the show. Take it away, my friends.
Hey everybody, how's it going? We're Group 1. I hope everybody's doing well. Today we're going to be talking about platforms and anti-publics. And to start, we'll have Jaden talking about social media news. And then we'll have Emma talking about discussion Article 1, which is about network publics and refracted publics. And then we'll move on to Armani, who will be talking about platforms, publics, and anti-publics. And then we'll be on to me, giving a compelling newsworthy story. And then to wrap it up, we'll be back to Jaden. So yeah, we're going to get started. I hope you all enjoy. But take it away, Jaden.
Hey everyone, I'm Jaden. Welcome to the social media news segment. And today we're going to be diving into one of the wildest trends happening online, which is how real life is becoming content. From live streamed births to viral weddings, people are turning deeply personal moments into public entertainment, and it's changing the way we connect and sometimes disconnect online. So the first story I'm going to be talking about is one of the most shocking stories this week, with the Twitch streamer Fandy actually live streaming the birth of her baby. Thousands of people tuned in, even the Twitch's CEO popped in the chat to watch her go through labor in real time. Some people called it brave and beautiful, saying how it showed how social media can connect through shared experiences, but others said it crossed the line, turning something sacred and private into entertainment. This is a perfect example of refracted publics, which involves her personal life becoming public content that reached completely different audiences with completely different reactions. The next story is the viral influencer wedding. Influencer McKinley Richardson live streamed her wedding to millions of followers, but the moment that went viral wasn't her dress or her vows, it was the groom's cringy and humiliating speech, which turned into a meme almost instantly. It shows how personal milestones become social media content. We lose control over how the world interprets them. The audience isn't just watching anymore, they're reacting, judging, and remixing the moment into something new. Story 3 is the dark side of streaming. Not all live streams are about celebration. In France, a 298-hour live stream turned tragic when a participant died on camera after being humiliated and pushed to the extremes. It's a heartbreaking reminder of what can happen when content and real life collide without boundaries, and how far people will really go for views and validation online. All of these stories connect back to one big idea: refracted publics. Social media allows us to share our lives in real time, but once something is public, it's refracted and split and reshaped by thousands of different viewers, comments, and algorithms. Whether that's empowering or dangerous depends on how we use it and how much of ourselves we're willing to give away. So what do you think? Would you ever stream a major life event, or are there some moments that should just stay offline?
I definitely think that some moments should probably stay offline, especially when they are huge moments or something that's happening very important in your life. Maybe posting afterwards is fine, but like live streaming it, you never know what's going to happen. And it can definitely be very scary. And when it's publicized, that's just even scarier.
I agree.
Yeah, I also agree with Emma. A lot of things can be taken like out of context. And I also just think that some things shouldn't be online because you never know. Some people might react to it.
Yeah, thinking about the two examples you shared, I think I would live stream my wedding, but I definitely would not do my birth.
I don't think I would have live streamed either, to be honest with you. And the Twitch live streaming of the birth just raises so many interesting questions for me, like consent, and you can't really take that back after, and also the child who's not even born yet. Like, how do you deal with all of these kind of consent processes that are fundamentally like disrespecting, a whole series of things that are really hard to take back after the fact. And I have like a bit of a personal story, but I'll tell it. So I actually gave birth to my daughter in our house. And I told the doula, do not take photographs. Like she was explicitly told no. And the birth was really rare. So she took photographs. And I was like, I didn't consent to that. In fact, I said no. And so I just think about this like super intimate moment where it's like, where does consent come in? And so that's my first question. Like, where does consent come in? And then I have a follow-up to this conversation that I want to come back to. But like, where does consent play a role in this, and who should be able to consent, and what considerations should be a part of like live streaming a birth or a wedding? What do you think?
I think consent really matters because not every moment is just yours to share. Like, you decide if it's yours to share, and you decide if others can share it with you.
Yeah, I definitely agree, especially with like the baby involved. You never really know like what that kid's going to think when they grow up and they know that their birth was like live streamed on Twitch, and students in their class are like telling them about it.
Yeah, I watched your birth. Can you imagine how mortified you would be if you were the kid who had their birth live streamed? But also the complications that could emerge from this. So my follow-up to this is, it takes us on a bit of a detour, but when I was in my 20s, I went to art school and I became really fascinated with pop art, and particularly Andy Warhol and the Factory, and how sort of like the banalization of everyday life became this sort of creative impetus and really interesting to me. I'm thinking like the Campbell's soup cans, or if you've seen in particular, the film is a 5.5-hour film of his partner sleeping. Just fully sleeping, doing nothing but sleeping. And if you haven't seen this and you have curiosity, I mean, it's streamed in 5 parts on YouTube, so you can go and watch some of this. But my point that I'm trying to make here is a question about, is live streaming something like a wedding or the birth of a child just a new form of art?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I never really considered it to be an art form, more of just like a sharing form. But now that you do say that, that's like that is really interesting. I think it should be considered a form of art because it is creation and there is creativity that goes involved with it. But it is kind of a new kind of scary form, I guess, that is going on.
Yeah, and also just like reading a lot of these comments about it being like a very intimate moment. I do agree that it does take away from like the magic of it, like just like wanting to just have that moment with your family and kind of like live streaming it and putting it out there is kind of taken away from that, I feel.
There are so many comments. Just maybe Jaden, do you want to go through them and I'll just pin them as you talk about them?
I really like Sophia's comment. She said, I think some moments are better kept offline. Streaming a major life event can be fun because you can get to share it with others in real time, but it can also make a private moment feel less special, and not everything needs to be shown to the world. That is my mindset. I feel the same way, exactly. And you worded that very well.
Yeah, also like it's kind of like when like you always like see like concerts. I don't know if like people are in here like really big music fans, but like you always see concerts and people recording the entire concert, and you always see comments about like, oh my gosh, put the phones down. Like I hope somebody recorded it, and it's kind of just like takes away from living in the moment. But I mean, some people want to like have those memories, which is fair. But
I think overwhelmingly our classmates are saying no. No, like just don't do this. I would not share that. So I think that's really interesting, and it was definitely a fascinating conversation. So thank you, Jaden.
I think now we'll be
So
moving on to
next,
Emma.
next we're going to Emma.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Emma. My article is called From Network Publics to Refracted Publics, a companion framework for researching below the radar studies by Crystal Abbedin. I really enjoyed reading the article. It's definitely very fascinating with all the different stuff and parts that go through it. So to begin, the term network publics originally rose from media and communication studies during the decade of the 2000s. It was really focused on platforms, infrastructures, and affordances. And Dana Boyd defined the term network publics as publics that are restructured by networks. So, network publics are considered imagined collectives or groups that are unified by a shared identity despite never meeting in person due to their online nature. Imagined audiences are really interesting to me because we can only form mental constructs of who's in contact with us. There are even some researchers that suggest that we perceive our imagined audience to be almost mirror images of ourselves because it's difficult to know who exactly is viewing our content, which forces us to create a mental model based on the limited cues that we do have. So I was wondering, when you guys post something, who do you perceive to be your audience?
For me personally, when I post, I usually think my audience is my friends, classmates, and people who follow me for updates or just fun stuff, basically anyone who relates to what I'm sharing.
Yeah, I feel the same. I feel like it's normally my friends, and sometimes my coworkers.
I would say friends and family.
Yeah, I agree. I think if there's, who do you guys not want to see your stuff when you post?
Probably
Really?
future workplaces.
Yeah.
I was gonna see my coworkers.
Yes.
So, and in some classes, people have said like my family, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
And I think even our class, we've had this conversation of, sometimes we have multiple Instagram accounts for a reason. And so that's fascinating. But
Mhm.
do you have public or private accounts? And does that change the mental model that you start to generate over these imagined audiences?
Yeah, I think my Instagram is public because a lot of people from the different organizations I'm in, they follow me and then they need to contact me like immediately through that. So it just kind of makes it easier. But I don't have anything posted on it. But I use like Snapchat kind of as like a private thing because I know the people that are on it and I know who's going to be viewing it. But what about you guys? What are your accounts?
I was gonna say there's also the option on Instagram now when you can like make a private story, so it can be both at the same time. Like I have the public stuff that I'm okay with everybody to see, and then if I have like some content that I like, it's tailored for a specific friend group or a specific like group in my life, then like I can post it there without worrying about like future employees or someone like this to see.
But this is so confusing too, because so now I have my main Instagram and then I have the close circle friends group. And then you can have these like tailored stories and posts. And sometimes I screw up and I put it to the wrong one. And I find that that's harder for me than just keeping things separate. But I mean, we all do it. What are you doing, Nick? Do you have public or private?
I have a public account. I also have like a main account, but I don't really use it anymore. I think I haven't posted in like over 2 years, but my account's public just because a lot of posts are my work. But I also have like my close friends on Instagram that, like you said, it's kind of confusing because sometimes I posted my close friends' content to my main story. I'm like, oh my God, I need to take that down now. But yeah, my account's public just because I post all my work for my coworkers to see. And like if someone needs to reach out, like Emma said, and get in contact with me, then I have like my email and stuff like that in my bio.
I like how Morgan says my internet friends, right? Like we all they're not all strangers. Sometimes I know them internet.
Yeah. I like Leo's. He said, my social media accounts are private, so only family and close friends can see what I post, not coworkers.
Nice.
And Taylor
But I
said,
think- oh, I'm sorry.
no, you're all good. Go ahead.
Zelda, go.
I was just gonna say, like, some people have like different type of coworkers. Like sometimes your coworker are your friends, but then what if you have coworkers who are just like they're maybe above you in the rank, so you don't want them to see, but you do want your some coworkers. Like there's such a like a strange dynamic with some people. So then you don't really like you'd rather be safe than sorry, I feel like, on social media sometimes with what you post.
Mhm.
Yeah, I relate to that so hard, especially about like the coworker part. I do have close friends on Instagram that are some of my coworkers, but then of course my bosses are not on the close friends. And I love using Instagram to network. So whenever I'm out at a conference or something, I'll connect with someone on Instagram. And so everything, my accounts are public and everything that I post is meant for a public audience.
I think many of us do that. And what Taylor just said, which is I have my public persona and then my close friends story personal. And I think that's, we've become very good at compartmentalizing public and private, but in this sort of interesting way where they're no longer these conscious binaries. I don't know where we go next, but I feel like we can move.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that was a really interesting discussion. Thank you guys for participating. So back to network publics, they do not dictate a person's behavior, but they do create the environment that shapes their engagement. So for example, OnlyFans was originally designed to be like a premium service for influencers, artists, and chefs to share their content. And now it's become something that's become very like sexual and pornographic. So OnlyFans created the environment, but user behavior kind of changed the platform. And then during the decades of the 2010s, when the internet was kind of like popping off and everybody was going at it, researchers noticed like a change in the way that we interacted with the media. There was a lot of data leaks, political protests, fake news, COVID-19, stuff like that going on. So they coined the term refracted publics. And refracted publics exist within networked publics in parallel or complement to them. So sometimes they're existing separately, sometimes they're going on at the same time, but they're just more like complements of each other. And while network publics are structure based, refracted publics are agency based. So they are defined by their creative and active strategies that users use to kind of manipulate, change, or resist the dominant digital environment. And they use the term refracted to describe how our general view differs from what is actually happening. So these communities exist below the radar, meaning that they exist in like the nooks and the crannies of social media. They work by staying hidden, shifting attention, and spreading messages widely, but also quietly in a sense. And there are different dynamics and conditions that go along with networked and refracted publics. In networked publics, they are persistent. Content is persistent. So it can be automatically recorded or archived, kind of like posting on YouTube or Instagram, those things are just always there unless you choose to delete them. And refracted publics have transients, so they are intentionally presented or coded to be short term, kind of like Instagram stories, Snapchat stories, or live streaming on Twitch. Like those are just, they're not there to stay. They are going to disappear after a certain amount of time. Network publics can be accessed by search, while refracted publics, the content needs to be knowable for a user to even chance upon it. Like maybe your algorithm recognizes your interest in a certain video game and you happen to stumble upon a clip from a Twitch streamer you've never seen before. So you go to Twitch and you like look up the streamer and you start watching their streams. That's just kind of like discovering it and then you leading yourself to it, or maybe somebody else is leading you to certain content, but you have to find it in order to know about it. And in network publics, users can copy, modify, and share content, which creates trends and communities. While refracted publics, people are free to make copies, content has a really high probability of being misunderstood by outside viewers. Just kind of like if you imagine like every joke or comment you made to like a friend or in a friend group was perceived to the outside world without context or an explanation, that'd be scary for me. Like I'd be really scared, but yeah. And then network publics are optimized for growth. So they value like the reach of an initial video is not just limited to an audience. There's chance for unlimited exposure to happen, kind of like TikTok duets. Like you can duet, you can replicate content, you can like follow a trend, and it's just kind of like stuff happening over and over again. But in refracted publics, visibility is very communal or localized. So they're built on this like premise of privacy, kind of like joining a Facebook group or subreddit forums or posting to like your multiple different stories that you have on Snapchat, knowing only certain people are going to be able to see this. And the certain dynamics that go along with network and refracted publics. In network publics, their audiences are invisible. This kind of goes along with the Imagine Collective that we just discussed. We don't really know who is viewing our content. And context also has the probability of being unintentionally collapsed. Like sometimes you post something and you're trying to say a certain thing, but others take different meaning from it. And it's just kind of this confusion where you didn't mean for something to happen, but it did. And the public and private view of a content can be blurred. So that's kind of how we discussed with like the unintended audience that we have from like future employers or parents or somebody finding your content that you didn't necessarily want that could potentially lead to real world consequences, as well as maybe kind of like what Dr. Stewart said, like you post something and you're confused about the privacy settings. So things just end up reaching a certain place that you didn't expect it to reach. And then in refracted publics, audiences are impactful. Users are constantly competing for attention to trigger platforms to show their content. So their audience needs to be engaged and they need to have they need to be giving the influencer something in order for them to continue. And they do this by weaponizing context. This dynamic occurs when a community takes a specific insider culture and deploys it in a broader, more external source. The in-group content, which is largely meaningless to outsiders, can strategically be used to disrupt or derail a function of a mainstream platform. And in 2020, K-pop stans observed white ring activists and police departments using hashtags to surveil and suppress online activity. In a very targeted move, they began flooding these political hashtags with thousands of unrelated fan cams, which are just short videos of a singer performing. They weaponize their context by introducing a new form of content, which is largely meaningless to the outsiders, and started posting them with the political hashtags, which totally disrupted and moved all of the normal hashtags down and brought their videos up. And they did this, they altered the public and private view by coordinating in private before unleashing to the public, and the general public lacked understanding of why the K-pop videos were showing up when they were searching for the hashtags used by the activists and the police departments. And one of the things that I think is like super interesting about refracted publics is kind of like the morals and ethics of the way that we do change our digital environment. There is things that can be used for good, things that are super harmless, and then there's also examples that can be harmful. So I was wondering, in the case of this K-pop fans, like news situation where they flooded with the political hashtags, how can you guys tell the difference between something that is protest and something that is more manipulative?
Personally, I think it depends on the intention and the impact of it. Like if the fans use the hashtags to raise awareness or support a cause, it's profit. But if they spam or drown out genuine discussion that needs to happen to control narratives, then it would be manipulation.
Yeah, I agree completely with Jaden on that.
Can you speak more to why, Nick?
I just feel like flooding out like a hashtag and trying to get to show something that was like not the meaning of it, like them flooding the post, it just like feels very manipulative. And that's pretty much why I feel that way.
This kind of what we would describe as hashtag hijacking has been used by brands and marketers, and it always raises questions to me about the ethics of jumping onto something that is unrelated to the task at hand. In this case, it's a bunch of fans. So it's like, where do you point the finger and how do you make it stop? And why are they doing it to begin with? And is it a form of co-option? And like, I can constantly have questions that kind of emerge from this kind of thing. But I think that in this scenario where we are these human publics dealing in these very platformized structures, it especially in an age where AI is infiltrating the ecosystem, the informational ecosystem that we are operating within, it is becoming so hard to tell what is difference between activism, manipulation, or persuasion, or propaganda. And that is, I think, a huge conversation for all of us. It looks like Taylor had a comment here. Maybe one of you want to read it.
Yes, Taylor said, I love K-pop, but some fans can be crazy. I agree with Jaden about the intentions. Yes, K-pop stans they can be a lot, but they do love what they do, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. But with the intention wise, I do agree. I think the ethics is kind of like blurry on this one for me, because I see both as like a freedom of speech choice, but there is some sort of manipulation that goes on by confusing other people and other people not knowing what's going on. And then
to build off of that, I'm curious, Emma, do you like when does that happen on the internet, and how can you tell that it's happening?
I think it definitely happens when we see like a lot of uproar within like the political state going on, and everybody's kind of pointing fingers and arguing. I haven't noticed it as much in my feed, because I do kind of keep my news a little bit to the side of my Instagram. I'll go on the internet for it, and then I'll scroll through Instagram just to keep it a safer space for myself. But I think during 2020, I definitely noticed it a lot going on with like the Black Lives Matter movement and stuff like that. But I didn't really know what it was at the time. I just kind of noticed that things were changing, the environment was shifting. And it definitely like changed the way I viewed social media for sure.
Mm-hmm. It looks like Angie said, I believe at the end of the day, fans choose to believe what they're supporting, so they'll switch the narrative to support what they believe in. There's been all of these really fun TikTok reels and Instagram stories flooding the internet lately, especially in response to the Louvre heist that recently happened, about like, if people just put Taylor Swift fans on this, it would be solved in hours. Have you seen these circulating? And I think it's really interesting, like the fan cultures that have emerged online, whether it's K-pop or the Swifties or whatever it is, but there's a real fan culture that is very, it drives those network publics that we're talking about here, like that formation of community in a really interesting way. Valerie says fan bases can vary, and intentions within them can also collectively cause harm. Armand, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's really true. I'm trying to think of an example, but I think there could be a harmful narrative for sure.
Yeah. Just an example that I'm thinking of is like when fan groups kind of like start going against each other. Let's say there's like drama between two artists or two creators or something. Like those fan groups can turn on each other real quick on like online. Like they don't even know each other, and they're just like there's like so much hate between like two fan groups just because like whoever they like is like having drama between each other. So just
I
kinda-
love this comment. Taylor Swift fans are very scary.
It's interesting how deep our loyalty runs within these online spaces, even though we've never like met or we don't even know these people, but we all kind of have a collective group mindset for the things that we care about.
I almost think we're looking for it. Like we are looking for collective moments wherever we can, and they don't happen through radio or television in the way they used to. So if Taylor Swift drops a new album, or there is this Louvre, I don't know if you just saw this, but Jaden has the most up-to-date information because I haven't scrolled social media until
I saw the video.
but even the like speculation around like how they did this at 9:30 in the morning, and all these memes about how even the robbers have better hours than we do. They have work-life balance and all these things. It's really funny. Oh, and then Angie says like, yeah, so there's even these like celebrity dynamics that create this. Ava says fan bases often start to act with a pack mentality, and it can be scary to even speak about something that could be controversial when talking about the celebrity. Oddly enough, yeah, exactly. So I think this is spot on. Anyone want to jump in?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Oh, sorry. Does somebody else want to go?
Oh, I was just gonna backtrack to the ethics and morals of like refracted publics. But I just think refracted publics raise like ethical issues because contentment for one audience can spread to another without consent, which blurs out privacy and context. And I think it's more when it's used to share voices, but harmful when it twists or exploits them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It is kind of like a weird gray area where we have this like freedom of speech to express ourselves, but then we also have a harmful, like we are harming other people, and that's when freedom of speech should be more considered, which is like this is harmful. It's not necessarily freedom. It's we need to be very careful. Absolutely.
So I wonder how much of this you think is related to the fact that refracted publics are circumvented by publics. Like, is it that, or is it that the architecture of participation on social media enables that?
I think more the architecture of the participation enables it, because like with the platforms are just kind of like they're like set, like we can use them any way we choose. But I think that other people coming in and kind of like the pack mentality that we discussed with like the fan groups, I think that people really do change the platforms that they are on and decide how they're going to use it and how it should be used. And then that kind of changes it's like a domino effect. It kind of changes how everybody else interacts as well, because they see what they see.
I have another question, but if anyone else wants to jump in before I ask. I want to ask you a question, the whole team, about this dynamic between persistence and transience. So one being a level of permanence in the way that we've been describing certain things in class over the last few weeks, and the other being sort of this ephemerality. But as we've also discussed in earlier iterations of this course, is anything truly ephemeral? Does anything truly disappear just because it's been posted as a story, just because it has an expiry date of 24 or 48 hours later because it's a Twitch stream, or the story only lasts for 24 hours? Does that ever lead to transience, or is transience always a possibility of permanence? Does my question make sense?
I think so. I mean, I think I understand what you're saying. I think it kind of does lead to transience a little bit, but also like you always hear that what you put on the internet is on the internet for the rest of your life. I don't really know how true that is, but I always hear that. So like I always hear to be careful about what you post on the internet. But I think it does tie to transience a bit though, because like like an Instagram story lasts like 24 hours, and then once it's been 24 hours, it'll go away. But it can also be in your archives as well, I think. So it's kind of like hard to answer, I feel, or hard to like get like a real like 100% answer.
Yeah, I feel like the stuff that we post, like it when it does like disappear, there's always the possibility of it not really disappearing. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily like transients, like ephemeral. Like there is always the option of it still being there because somebody could screenshot it or screen record it, and then they could repost it, and then it's there forever. And I don't really know how it works, like infrastructure wise, like whether or not the like Snapchat or like Instagram has those things kind of like archived themselves, even though they are disappearing. But that'd be something to look into because I am interested to know about that.
Thinking about that, I think about like websites like Wayback Machine that take snapshots of like web pages. I'm wondering if there's something like that for like posts that we make and videos that we post, even though they might be temporary. Who knows that they might be snapshotted in some way.
How many times have you heard about athletes or celebrities posting really stupid stuff when they're young and people resurfacing it to create reputational damage? How many times do you see something that was posted as a story be screencast, screenshot, and shared in other places? I mean, this kind of stuff happens, I feel like, daily now. It used to be this like once in the blue moon. Now it's like people are almost collecting collateral damage to use whatever they want. And so, what does that mean for us? And I think Sophia says this really beautifully here. People can record the story you share, so they could keep your content as long as you want. So, even if we have a friend account and a professional account, like what difference does that mean if someone can potentially keep your content? And what does that mean about the state of publics in these platforms and how we need to handle our own data? What do you think?
I'd say we definitely need to be careful, very careful. Just like what Sophia said, like they can keep our comments as long as we want. And I think knowing that anything that you post just can be always seen is just scary. Like what Taylor said, she said digital footprint scares me. I definitely agree. I think like a lot of like influencers, like smaller ones on TikTok that just blow up really quickly, and then they have like a video resurface, or like the girl from Love Island that got kicked off. I forgot her name if anybody knows her name, but she was removed because of a video that resurfaced. Oh yes, Ava and I had the same thought. Yeah, exactly.
And you are at the exact same wavelength. And Lucas actually has a really great comment, which is, I think the whole "it's on the internet" thing forever is a bit of a scare tactic to keep people in check. Obviously, there's some kind of trace of the content, but I don't think it's prevalent enough to stop you from speaking your mind until you're super popular and famous, I would argue, Lucas. I mean, for the everyday person, no. But I mean, what about later? What do you think? Do you agree with Lucas? Not agree? Or is there kind of an asterisk there? I agree that no one cares about my life and will never care about my life enough. But I mean, for young people who don't know what that's going to look
What
like.
if 10 years from now you become famous and then you're going to really think back like, oh, what did I say when I was a teenager online? Like that's probably going to resurface.
Yeah, kind of. And Angie, sorry, were you done? Sorry.
No, I was just going to
Like,
say, just like I said earlier, you better be safe than sorry.
yeah. And also, like Angie said, the cancel culture nowadays is actually kind of crazy. Like, you can get canceled for pretty much everything. Yeah, the cancel culture is definitely going crazy in 2025.
It is absolutely.
Sarah has a question for you, which is, do you see a benefit of being private accounts on social media, or would the same thing arise?
That's a great question. I think there is definitely a benefit with the privacy. The only like non-benefit would be that anybody on that private account can screenshot and can share it. But with the privacy, it does kind of allow you some more freedom in a sense that you kind of know these people. But like I said, like anybody can change their mind about you at any second and pull from things. But I think there's definitely a benefit, especially with like employers, or like when future employers look up your account and they see it's private, they might not always be able to get access to it. And I do think that that sort of privacy, just to remain professional within their eyes, is very nice. What do you guys think about that?
What do we think about what Emma just said?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I definitely think a private account can help limit who sees your content, but I don't think it's foolproof, because you could be friends with someone and trust that what you're sharing won't go anywhere, but then something could happen and they could use it as like blackmail or something for your future. Just anything can happen. You have to think about every possibility.
Yeah, even like let's say like Snapchat. Like I'm sure everybody has like group chats with their friends, and they send funny stuff. Like my group chat has a lot of dumb stuff, and like if one of my friends were to like not like me anymore, they would definitely have a lot of dirt on me or anybody in the group chat. So yeah, it's like really be careful about
But as
what.
we've seen recently, group chats can be leaked, and that can be really devastating for someone's career. And so, yeah, even in that like safe zone, is it so safe? I think this links really nicely to Ava's question for your team, which is, do you think cancel culture has its benefits by holding people accountable, or do you think it's gone too far and started to become a form of revenge? Oh, really good question.
That's an amazing question. I think that it has its benefits by holding people accountable, but I do think it's gone a bit far in the term that people do change and they do grow, and everything that you did as a kid shouldn't always be held against you. Like if all of the mistakes I made as a child were in front of everybody to see, like the entire world to see, that would be a really hard life for me to live. And I think we should definitely be very careful when we bring up things from other people, but I think it does have its benefits by really just like showing who people truly are and what their intentions are, especially people that we are supporting in a sense. But what do you guys think about that?
And I'd say I think it's become like gone to the point where people are like going to look for stuff on you. Like if they don't like a specific celebrity or something, they like go digging to find the like stuff on them just so that they could like get this person canceled, which I think is so unfair.
Yeah, I was actually gonna mention that earlier because I feel like people were like do it on purpose almost, like just find dirt on somebody just because like they may not like them. I feel like that happens quite a bit.
Mhm.
There are some people with strong reactions to cancel culture and thinking it has definitely gone too far. I like this one by Sarah. Cancel culture, I feel like it's so ridiculous and hypocritical at times because it is, from times when you're younger. And Valerie has a question. What do y'all think about social media activity being I think it's fireable offense at any job? I think this is so real right now. I mean, we're dealing with people's public opinions, on a regular basis, leading to people being fired. What do you think?
It's so interesting, especially like on TikTok. I've seen where people will post videos, and because they don't say something that they like, they'll go and find their job and reach out to their job to get them fired. And I think that's ridiculous. I think that I guess if it's not causing harm and it's someone's free speech, that's okay. But I understand if it is causing harm. I've seen some TikToks where they call like child protective services on families because of how kids are being treated online. And I think that's a good cause.
Yeah, I definitely agree with like what Armani said, it's like the cause that goes into it. But for social media activity being a fireable offense, I think that we should be held accountable for everything that we do on like almost every platform at all times. And I think if your job sees something or sees you engaging in a certain way that doesn't align with their values or beliefs, that they should be able to tell you and remove you if necessary. I think for the safety of their business as well as for you.
I guess I agree with you, Emma, but the problem here lies in the fact that discursive acceptability changes. and it seems to change rather frequently, right? And so what is discursively acceptable 10 years ago is wildly different than what's acceptable today and what's different 10 years from now. So I think we've also seen people who said things 10 years ago or who say things today that 10 years ago could be problematic that maybe wouldn't be perceived as problematic today. Emma, how do you respond to that, like that changing dynamic of discursive acceptability?
Yeah, I think that is it's very interesting because I think that, like you said, like if you say something 10 years ago, that goes back to kind of like what we're talking about with cancel culture, like people do grow and they do change. I didn't really consider like all like the time, I guess. I was thinking of more if you post something now and your job sees it now. But if something were to resurface of you, I think that is like honestly like terrible. Like I can imagine like how much you grow and change as a person. Like your brain is still developing as a kid or as a young adult. And just to have stuff posted and just be so public all the time and just knowing that anybody can find it, definitely like I think it should be taken into consideration when with your job, but I also think it needs to be an honest conversation about how you've grown and how you've changed or like what was going on when that video or post happened.
Thank you, Emma. We have so many great statements, comments, questions in the chat, but there is no way we can get to them all. And I'd love to stay on this great conversation that Emma just led us through, but I think it's time to move to Armani.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'll be talking about the article titled Social Media and Society, Platforms, Publics, and Anti-Publics. The article explores how social media platforms shape the ways people form communities online, also known as publics. It looks at how we've moved from the early days of social network sites to large data-driven platforms. The authors focus on three main ideas: the shift from social network sites to platforms, how algorithms structure online publics, and the growing tensions between platform owners, designers, and users. One of the key points of the article is how we've shifted from social network sites to platforms. Social network sites like early Facebook or MySpace were mainly about people connecting with each other. They were spaces that helped us create what Dana Boyd called networked publics, or groups of people brought together by technology to interact, share, and express themselves. But over time, these networks turned into platforms. Platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok aren't just places for social connection anymore. They're huge data-driven systems that are multi-sided markets. Oh, can you all hear me? I just saw the comment.
You keep going, and if Nick needs to step out, feel free, but yeah, keep going.
Okay, sorry, I just wanted to make sure everyone can hear me. Platforms do much more than let people communicate. They host content, collect data, and make money from how we use them. This shift has changed how online communities form. Instead of people coming together around shared interests, algorithms now decide what we see and who we interact with. That means our online groups are often shaped by data, platform design rather than by us. At the same time, these platforms have made it easier for harmful groups to grow, spreading hate, misinformation, and extreme views, or what is also called anti-publics. So while social media still helps people connect, it can also create spaces that divide and polarize. Overall, we've moved from online spaces that we once shaped to systems that now shape us. Platforms now influence how we think, interact, and even understand the world around us. Shaping and structuring publics. Algorithms play a huge role in shaping what we see online and who we connect with. On apps like TikTok, the algorithm doesn't just show random videos. It learns from our patterns and our engagement and what we watch and interact with, and starts to decide what kind of content fits us. Over time, this shapes how people see themselves and what the article calls an algorithmic self. People often end up joining different communities, like the different sides of TikToks, based on what the algorithm shows them. But this isn't always a good thing. Users try to control their feeds, but they don't know how the algorithm works. And for some people, being visible online can even be risky. An example the article uses is something called algospeak. That's when people use coded words or symbols to avoid being censored. For example, the watermelon emoji is sometimes used to show support for Palestinian liberation without being flagged by the platform. Overall, this topic shows that our online spaces aren't just shaped by people, they're shaped by algorithms. Platforms and users are constantly pushing and pulling over what's seen, what's hidden, and what gets to be visible online. As new platforms and features are created, publics or online communities keep changing, but they're also shaped by politics, money, and power. The article explains that these tensions aren't just about design or algorithms. They're about who owns the platforms and what their goals are. For example, TikTok's ownership has created political tension between China and the United States. And Elon Musk's control of Twitter, now called X, has raised new ethical and social concerns. An example the article gives is the visibility of major tech leaders like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jeff Bezos, who all appeared at Donald Trump's second inauguration in 2025. That moment symbolized how closely big tech and political power are now connected. It also raises big questions about who's really responsible when platforms cause harm. The article also points out that platforms don't just host public discussions, they profit from them. So now every like, share, and comment becomes part of what's called an engagement at all costs system, where public attention itself is turned into a resource that can be used, manipulated, or controlled. Overall, this article shows that digital public spaces are fragile. They can easily be reshaped depending on who owns the platform and what their motives are. The balance between users, companies, and governments is constantly shifting, and that tension defines much of our online world today. Do you all have any examples of how social media platforms and their algorithms shape the way people form online communities today?
Yeah, I definitely do. For example, like Elizabeth said in the chat, TikTok's algorithm is constantly changing. It groups people with similar interests on their For You page, and just to build many communities like Book Talk or Gym Talk, and Instagram and Twitter do it too by showing posts you're most likely to engage with, which similar users share together, and it shapes online groups.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that with like the way that the algorithms work and kind of just how they learn from us is just so crazy because they I mean, my algorithm probably knows me better than I know myself, or like most people know me. It knows what I want to see. And from there, I groups and communities do kind of form. Like there's just like certain things in like fashion that I really like. So I just scroll and I see a lot of people wearing like jorts or like Janko jeans and stuff. And I love seeing that. But it's definitely crazy how like a algorithm, like an AI system or technology is creating communities now.
Yeah, really just piggybacking on that. It is really crazy how there's so many like different groups on like social media, like TikTok for say, like Jada mentioned, or like Gym Talk, and like there's all just like all types of group to like you like one video or like two videos, and then now you just keep seeing it and just like takes over your For You page and like Instagram Reels, your Explore page.
Matilda, do you want to join the discussion at all? Do you have any thoughts on this?
I was trying to think of an example, but I was just thinking about how now I feel like if I talk with someone about something, that is going to show up on my TikTok feed like right after. So then I'm like, whatever I'm like experiencing in like real life, I'm also now experiencing on my TikTok. So I think that like builds the same communities that I have like in real life, now online as well, just because like my phone's listening to me and it's kind of creepy.
So there's obviously advantages to that, but what are the limitations?
When you say limitations, what do you mean exactly?
If you're only being exposed to the same communities, the same content, exactly the same stuff that you're already surrounding yourself with, what happens?
All your content becomes really biased and it's one-sided, and your perspective kind of becomes a bit, I would say, out of touch, because there's so many videos, so many, like, let's say the news for example, if you're getting one side of the story and not the rest of the sides, then it's really biased.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Sorry, no, go, Matilda's turn. I've talked enough.
I was just saying, like, when you're exposed to the same stuff over and over again, even if it's not true, you start believing it just because it's like all you see. So like it goes together with the bias. Like you start believing the bias, and you start believing like sometimes like fake stuff that seems so real online. And I think that's definitely a limitation when it like feeds it to you over and over again just because of the algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really interesting point. So when we had the Hill Country floods, which were obviously really devastating, I think a lot of us, our feeds were filling up with the content from this. Is that true for you? It was true for me. But in between these, like, humanitarian efforts and, just the catastrophe that was surrounding it, one of the things that kept happening was conspiracy theories started coming into my feed about why it happened. And I was thinking, this is so fascinating to me that the algorithm equates me being interested in the Hill Country floods and trying to support the businesses that were giving back to our community at that time and just trying to be informed with a conspiracy that was kind of surfacing in parallel to that. And I thought, isn't that fascinating that, this led to that? And I don't know if anyone else has had that experience where it's like, because I followed this, I then got this other stuff. And that was really obvious for me. But sometimes I have had to go and fact check, what I'm seeing online. And have you ever encountered that where you're like, I don't know, that could be real. I don't know. Is it real? Any experiences like that?
Yeah, I would definitely say with a lot of stuff that pops up on my feeds that is like news related, because I don't really get much, I do have a certain kind of mistrust for information that I do receive. And it does make me like a bit nervous to go and like talk about it or discuss it with other people if I haven't had the time to go and like research it myself. Kind of like with like Charlie Kirk's death, I wasn't entirely sure what happened, and I needed to wait to discuss it until I had time to go and like look into it and see what actually went on. But I found it first on social media.
And I'm going to say something that I've said maybe before in our class, but also we're being fed a lot of this without our consent, like no trigger warnings, nothing, right? And so it's just landing in front of us. And so what does that tell us about the power that the platforms have? Should they have that kind of power? Should we be able to, select what kind of information we see, or how can we deal with these kind of issues?
I think it would be nice if they gave us the option to select what we do see. Just because, like, me personally, I'm not a very big politics person. I don't really pay attention to it. Probably should, but I do see like politics on my Instagram sometimes, and I'm just like, man, I just want to see like memes right now. It's like, get out of here. But I do wish that they had that option to select, but also at the same time, it's very important because I might not like want to see the news, but a lot of the news that I do get, and like find stuff out, like Emma said, Charlie Kirk's death, and just like other things that happen in the world, like I wouldn't really hear about it if it wasn't for like TikTok. I feel like that's like where I get my news from, which kind of is crazy to say, because I remember like growing up watching the news in the morning. But yeah, I feel like I get everything from like social media now, and never really from like the actual news. So I guess it's nice that they don't allow that, because if they did like give that option to like what you want to see, I probably would ask to not see it, and then I probably wouldn't be up to date on what's actually going on in the world.
That's well said. I have a question for y'all. I read this article recently that talked about how young people do like, they try to manipulate their algorithm kind of. So like, do you purposely engage with specific videos just to get that more into your feed? Like, do you go and then like share it or like it or comment on it just so that like that would be enforced in your algorithm? I'm curious to know if y'all do that, because I know this. I do it sometimes when I'm like, oh, I want this more on my feed, and then I go like it just to make sure that my algorithm gets like, oh, I like this stuff.
I definitely do that. And sometimes when I'm scrolling, because I have like this, like, I don't know if you guys do it too, but kind of like an automatic like, where I just see something and I like tap it because it just stimulates me and I keep scrolling. And then I'll realize I'll be like, oh, I actually don't really want to see that. So I'll scroll back up and unlike it. I don't know if that changes anything because I already did the motion of liking it, but I'll unlike it and then like continue, and definitely like specific things so I can see more of it.
What I do on my Facebook and like Instagram, maybe not that, but there's an option to remove, like, I don't want to see this type of content. I do that.
I do agree. I do wish that we had the option because, like Sophia said, I was just scrolling on my phone. I saw the actual footage of Charlie Kirk's death, and it was very, very like traumatic. It made me really sick to my stomach, and it's just things like that I don't want to see. It's sad, but it pops up anyways because it's what everyone's talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important that we go back to this question that Jaden put, which is examples. I don't know if it's me, but things are freezing. Okay, I can see most of you are back. I feel like whenever I search or look for certain content, I will continuously get similar data over the next few days and weeks. The algorithm then introduces similar content to what is already watched. And Ava says, I think it's important to have easy access to communities you're interested in. Yeah, and I think that's like why we like the internet, right? Like it's why we go on to TikTok or Instagram. But it could be dangerous if someone sees it and clouds their open mind to different cultures. And Sophia says, over time, people who enjoy similar things begin to interact and form online communities. I would argue like this happens in real life too. Like I like running, we're all running together, or I like yoga, we all like yoga, right? I mean, we naturally do this. This is a part of humanity, I would argue. Are there any other comments here that I should definitely feature, friends? No? Armani, do you have anything else, or should we move on to the next segment?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Nick.
Thank you, Armani. Hey, everybody. My name is Nick, like I mentioned earlier. Today, I'm going to be giving a newsworthy, compelling story, and that is about a viral meme that blew up earlier this year called Italian brain rot. I'm sure we've all heard about it, but I really want to dig into this because although it might seem pretty meaningless online, it can actually reveal a lot about how our generation communicates and how we form digital communities, and even how our humor can cross into like darker, more controversial areas. But Italian brain rot is basically just these memes that were started. It's just like animals like with Italian voices or like words over them, and they're just like there's a shark with shoes on. There's a crocodile that's like a bombing a ship. And although it can be kind of like funny and kind of chaotic, it can also be very controversial to some. And I'm really just going to be digging into why that is, like why it can be more controversial. So it first started on like Instagram and TikTok as just like those weird creatures that people would see. And it may sound like Italian, but they're actually really just like gibberish, like kind of funny names. I'll try to pronounce two of them. One of them is Tralalero, Chalala, I think. That is I don't remember which one that is, but
The shark.
also, is that the shark? Okay.
Shark that wears Nike shoes. I have to know all of these kids.
Oh yeah, the kids. Okay, yeah. And there's also Bombardino Crocodilo, which is my favorite. I don't know, it's kind of funny, but it really just went viral because of its like crazy humor and randomness. It's kind of like it's so weird and dumb that it's funny for some reason. But behind it all, it kind of ties back to how digital publics work, and I'm going to be explaining how that is connected to a Biden's Refracted Publics article. She created this concept to explain how like online communities don't always form in open, visible spaces. They're refracted and like constantly shifting. But like the conditions of Italian brain rot, like timed to like transients. The memes blow up fast. Obviously, like I didn't even know about the Italian brain rot. But it just wouldn't leave my For You page. And then after they're there for a few days, they just vanish. Like I don't see Italian brain rot anymore. Maybe like once every now and then, but not unless like somebody shows me. And also just like tying back to discoverability. Most people don't search for them. I know I didn't search to see a shark with Nike shoes on. I'm sure nobody else did either. Kind of just came across my For You page, and my roommate was actually the one to show me them because he wouldn't stop talking about it and like saying trollo, like just like around the apartment. And then after, like Matilda mentioned earlier, phone listens to you, I guess, and they wouldn't leave my For You page or my Instagram reels. It's just like every night. And kind of also tying back to like silo sociality, I think I pronounced that right. Just like different groups form their own interpretations, and fans think it's funny, like media calls it absurd, and critics see it as like cultural mockery, which it kind of is in a sense. And like the dynamics of Italian brain rot, it's like impactful audiences, like comments, duets, and like stitches to videos, help them blow up. Which I think like the shark with the shoes was like one of the most popular ones, and like that bamboo. And also like weaponized context, like offensive or controversial audios, ones like Bombardino, Crocodilo. I guess there was Emma had told me that it kind of tied back to like the bombings in Gaza. I guess that I had no idea about, which is crazy to think there's like kids had toys of these things, and then it kind of ties back to that, which is insane. And also just like alternating public/private, something that kind of starts as like a small private joke becomes like a massive trend overnight. Like I said, it just blew up really fast. And this like framework that Albite, I think that was her name, sorry. Help like this whole framework that she has kind of helps us see the memes like Italian brain rot aren't just random. They're like constantly being reshaped by audiences and like algorithms and like hidden layers of meaning. And like going into like the darker side of these memes like Bombardier Crocodilo, like I mentioned, the ship that's a crocodile. One version of the meme includes audio describing a crocodile bombing children in Gaza, which is crazy. And it's also like the deeper meaning behind it, because I didn't even know about that, like I mentioned until Emma brought it up. And many people use these clips without realizing what the audio meant. Like I'm sure if we all knew that the crocodile was kind of tied to like the bombings, I'm sure kids wouldn't have little plastic figurines of them. At least I hope not. But and why this whole thing is kind of concerning, yeah, like Micah said, they make like little play characters with them. And why this is kind of concerning is like weaponized humor turns like real violence into like religion and like punchlines. Desensitization like normalizes tragedy and like erases empathy in a sense. And like the whole cultural mockery thing. I read an article about this Italian guy. His name was Joe Carrazzo, I believe that was his name. I might be butchering his name, sorry, but he in the article it said that he found the meme very unfunny and very mean because like he goes in quotes, "We don't talk like that. I'm not a damn Bambini, Guazzini, or whatever the F it is. I'm not a Bambini," he said. So like you can just see how it can offend him and his culture, which is completely fair. Because I mean, if it was making jokes about Hispanics or something like that, I personally wouldn't like that. Some people, I mean, I wouldn't go out of my way and say it bothers me, but I just wouldn't pay attention to it. And I kind of just like want to leave you off with one last question, and that's where do you think we should draw the line between humor and taking accountability for what we interact with on social media?
I think the line between humor and accountability is when a joke stops being harmless and starts affecting real people and communities. I think it's okay to enjoy humor and memes, but we have to recognize that what we are interacting with helps spread it also. So even if something seems funny to us, we should really think about who it might impact or offend when we share and engage with it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that when something becomes harmful, the only like the only issue I have about that is like I didn't even know the hidden meaning behind Italian brain rot until like maybe like a couple weeks after finding it and having it on my For You page. And then when I read the article for the Anti-Publix one, she brought it up and she mentioned how it was kind of dangerous in a sense that there is a hidden meaning behind certain figurines that they have that I wasn't even aware of prior. So it's just like, how do we make ourselves aware of something that we didn't even know was wrong in the first place?
I think this is really fascinating, and I think it speaks to Abaddon's concept of weaponized, the weaponized context, that repurposing. So the way that this infiltrated my house was my child started middle school. He's 11. And there's a game on Roblox called Steal a Brain Rot. And they've ported all of these characters into this game. And the whole premise of the game is, I'm going to steal your brain rot. I stole your brain rot. I stole your brain rot. So the first few weeks of school, that's all I heard was, I stole their brain rot. I stole their brain rot. Oh my gosh, they play this in school. They figure out ways to play on these Google Chromebooks at school. And this has thankfully been replaced with the whole 6-7 meme, but that's another story, and they take on a life of their own with their own vernacular. But what I will say about this is the remix culture that enables it becomes insidious, and it allows people to use it in so many different ways. And in fact, they don't even realize that there's actually necessarily that it's coming off in more harmful ways. So for example, like the TikTok videos, if you watch those, that is a whole different ball game, because you see these characters, but then the audio to it is absolutely offensive, or the comments to it or the captions are absolutely offensive. But then you take something so simple like I'm stealing your brain rot, and they're just these little characters running around that are synthetic media completely generated with AI, and it looks so harmless. And so how do we as a society deal with the fact that these like weaponized contexts are emerging all over? They're increasing the popularity and cultural relevance or significance of something so simple as Italian brain rot that has these underlying meanings. Anyways, that's kind of my question, is like, how does remix culture, or this reappropriation or ability to repurpose content through these weaponized contexts, become potentially troubling, or make it sort of mass available to people?
Yeah, I definitely think it's super interesting, because I honestly don't really know how we can like control or kind of like weave our way through the digital environment to like ensure that everything that does become popular is kind of like okay in a sense. But if anybody else has anything about that.
I kind of do. I just think we have to be more, like, start being more aware of how information is used and shared, like education, media literacy, and just thinking before we post. I think those are keys to keeping online spaces from being weaponized or used to spread that.
Yeah, I completely agree. We also have some really outstanding answers in the chat that I think are worth reading out. Angie says, I believe the line is when it involves religion, politics, or race. And then Micah says, I think it's hard to draw a line with so many opinions. Like, everyone has an opinion and they all think their opinion, I'm paraphrasing Micah, but like everyone does think their opinion is correct. So no matter what you say, there's a possibility that someone might get offended. I think that's 100% true. And then Sophia says, it's okay to laugh and enjoy funny content, but we also need to be aware of what we're supporting and sharing. And I think sometimes we don't, or at least I don't. It's like, you think it's harmless, you think it's silly, you think it's funny. I'm just trying to scroll down here. Taylor said they saw a video on X yesterday, a news reporter tried to speak at a sporting event, and these young men came up to her and screamed 6'7" while she was reporting. Oh, like actual like big people, not like 11-year-olds. Because I will tell you, we were at the Texas State football game, and it was 6'7" ended up on the scoreboard together, and like that is all I heard. But thankfully they weren't interrupting everyone else. But yeah, that is sad, and it becomes disruptive. And I have seen videos about that. Valerie says, my nephew won't stop talking about Italian brain rot, but being mindful of what you post becomes really important. And she added a second one there, or share, not just post, but or share. So anyone have anything else they want to add, or should we start moving to the conclusion?
Yeah, I think we can move on to Jaden, which will be wrapping this whole thing up. So go ahead, Jaden.
Terrific. And Nick, that was hilarious. I was busted.
Thank you. I was hoping that was gonna be funny. I figured it would, being it's a meme.
Okay, now to wrap up our social media show from networked publics to refracted publics, our discussion shows just how much social media has evolved and how deeply it shapes the way we connect, create, and even see ourselves online. We started by looking at how social networks like early Facebook and MySpace were built around connection and how people have formed communities through shared interests. But over time, those connections became platforms and algorithm-driven systems where our interactions and our audiences and even our sense of identity are filtered and shaped by data, design, and profit. Then we explored refracted publics, spaces that remix and reshape content across audiences, where something personal or private can quickly become public. A live stream birth, a viral wedding, or even a private joke can be interpreted in thousands of ways once it's online. Across these examples, one thing stands out. Social media isn't neutral. It is a system of power, one that can connect us, empower movements, and build community, but it also can blur privacy, amplify misinformation, and profit from our attention. So as users, creators, and participants in these digital publics, we have to be aware of how our content refracts once it leaves our hands. Our call to action is simple: be conscious, be critical, and intentional. Ask yourself, who am I really posting for? How might this be interpreted or reused? Because every post adds to the larger culture we're all shaping together. In the end, the choice is ours to use these platforms thoughtfully, to protect what's personal, and to remind ourselves that not everything needs to be content. Some things are just worth keeping just for us. And thank y'all for tuning in.
Woohoo! Well done, Team One. What a fun way to spend the afternoon, and with such a vibrant and energetic group. I knew it was going to be a great show because I looked at the teaser last night, but I want to commend you on just such an outstanding job. Well done. And audience, give them a round of applause in those comments because they nailed it. That's a textbook example of how to do a perfect show. And they set us off for a really great semester because now you have a framework. If you didn't already watch one of them, you now have, and you know what to do. And if you don't know, just come back and watch them again because Emma, Jaden, Nick, and Armani, you did an outstanding job. And that didn't surprise me. You've been a standout team all semester. And so this show just came together beautifully, and I hope you had fun doing it. And I enjoyed my afternoon immensely with all of you. So well done. Congratulations, team. Matilda, any initial thoughts for them?
I was just going to say, I know it's like nervous and hard to go first, and I think y'all did such a good job just leading us off into a great stretch of shows. I'm really proud of you guys. Good job with questions. I mean, good job on everything, really. I loved it. It was really, really good. Good job.
Oh, I shouldn't have muted myself. I said I loved it too. and if you look at these comments that are coming in, everyone loved it. Loved watching. Great job. Just amazing. And Jaden says,
thank y'all for tuning in.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
It was an outstanding show. For those of you who are in our class, keep in mind that we do have some deadlines that are approaching. Those are all in the announcement from this week. But next week, we also have another amazing show, The Nested Precarities of Creative Labor. And if you're interested in tuning into another show, we have an 11 a.m. that is not part of our social media class. But that is, let me just open it so I don't actually say it wrong. We're going to be having, for the Digital Media Innovation capstone class that I teach, a special live session on navigating digital futures with Alyssa Fontanet, who's the executive director and digital and content marketing at the Division of Marketing and Communication here at Texas State. We'll also have Dr. Cindy Royal joining us and Dale Blassingame. So it'll be a really awesome, fun little 50 minutes at 11 o'clock next Wednesday, or 2 o'clock. We'll be back on for our social media shows. Really, really great work. And thank you to the audience for joining in. This was the best, most participatory audience. I am so sorry if I couldn't share all of your comments and questions. I tried really hard, but there's just so many coming in. So thank you to all of you in the audience. I look forward to seeing you all on Monday. Have a wonderful week. And for those of you who are live, just wait a second.